So what is intonation and why is it so important? Well, intonation is essentially how well your guitar is going to play in tune by itself. Everything from your open strings fretted all the way up the neck, every note should be in its correct pitch. Now, why is this so important? Well, it's very important for your own ear as a musician to know accurately what notes sound correct. Now, this is very important when you start playing with other people, whether that be in a jam or in an actual band, that your guitar is set up and intonated correctly. Otherwise, you're going to notice some clashing notes and it's not going to sound very great. So today, I'm going to show you how to intonate. So one thing that I should mention, your guitar is not going to be absolutely perfectly in tune, but we can get it really close. So now we got your guitar tuned and set up, and we're finally ready to intonate. And if you're wondering how to do a full setup, I'll leave a video I did linked in the description. So there's a real quick method we can use that I'll show you in just a second that'll get your intonation almost perfect before you even string up the guitar. And this applies on all types of bridges. So today we're going to look at your 4 different but most common types of bridges. For starters, your Stratocaster. So the Stratocaster is probably one of the most unique and in-depth ones we'll look at today. It has 6 individual saddles that you can adjust your action on, as well as intonate each of those individually. You'll need a set of Allen wrenches for this. To adjust your action on these, simply take your 50 thousandths and insert into whichever saddle you wish to adjust. Simply turning it will either raise or lower your action. Usually a new guitar will include the correct tool for this, but in case you don't have one, it's typically a 50 thousandth. To intonate, simply get a standard Phillips head screwdriver and turn clockwise to pull the saddle back, sharpen the pitch, or counterclockwise towards the nut, making the pitch flat. Next up is the Telecaster. Nowadays, Teles have all kinds of bridges, but today we're looking at the vintage correct bridge, 3 brass saddles. These seem simpler but can be a little more challenging to those who don't know what to look for. With these, you'll want to split the difference between your shared strings on each saddle. For instance, if you are intonating your high E perfectly, that would leave your B way sharp. So instead, we leave the high E slightly flat, which makes the B only slightly sharp. You'll want a very small flathead screwdriver to adjust the saddle heights on these, as well as a flathead screwdriver for the intonation screws. Follow the same steps as we did before. If this is a big problem for your ears, you can always get a 6 saddle bridge for your Teles, but some go for the period correct look, which is why we still see these today. The Wraparound made its debut in 1953 on the Gibson Les Paul, replacing the poorly made version before, and is still around to this day. The Wraparound is very simple in that there's only 4 points you have to adjust on it. The tailpiece screws to adjust the height, and the Allen screw in the back for the intonation. Simply tighten or lower the tailpiece screws to lower the action and adjust your intonation by tightening your Allen screws in the back. You should only have to measure the outside E's for this, and everything else should fall into place. This particular bridge is a Music City bridge and is intonated perfectly for these guitars. If you haven't grabbed yourself one yet, do yourself a favor. And lastly, the ABR. Very common on most Gibsons. Once again, you'll need a flathead screwdriver for the intonation adjustment located on the front of the bridge, and despite what most people say, it's fairly simple to adjust on. To adjust your action, simply turn the thumb wheels in the direction you wish. Clockwise will lower your action, and counter will raise it. Now for the trick I mentioned earlier. Notice on the left that all the saddles are right down the middle. This is incorrect. They should be stair-stepped like the one to the right. Get your high E close to the front, adjust your B a little behind that, and so forth for the G. Then take your D saddle and put it slightly past your B, and repeat the process for your A and E strings. Do this every time and you will be very close to where your intonation should fall into. This is how your saddles should look on every guitar. If it doesn't, then something is wrong. So what to look for when you're intonating. You want to pick the open string, tune it, and make sure your harmonic is at the correct pitch as well. Then, individually, hold down each of your strings at the 12th fret. If your guitar is intonated, it should fall right on the same pitch like shown, hardly any movement. If it shows it flat or sharp, simply adjust your saddles like we talked about before until those are the same. Well, I hope you were able to learn a little bit more about intonation today. Let me know if these things helped you in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and I'll see y'all real soon.